Welcome to the CodPast podcast, where your fishy past hooks your brilliant future. With Dr. Deborah, Laura, and Dr. Trish.
So, welcome to the podcast, the CodPast podcast, where your fishy past hooks your brilliant future. I'm not going to play the song because I'm not multimedia girl, but I would like to introduce our guest who came to us through an incredible medium called, not medium, but something called like podcast guests. I found Kathy, and her history just sounded so interesting, and her book sounded even more interesting. So I reached out to her, and she checked us out and decided that we all speak the same thing. And I'll let her tell you why she decided to come on. But first, I'd like to introduce Kathy to you, and I have her bio right here. So she is the author of the memoir "MISFIT in Hell to Heaven EXPAT." She was once upon a time hospitalized for, is it pronounced ARDS or is it ARDS? ARDS, which is lung failure, in 1999. Her name is M.K. McDaniel, but she goes by Kathy, was placed on a ventilator and into a drug-induced coma. A distressing near-death experience occurred, and although mostly traumatic, the indescribable bliss of heaven shifted her religious beliefs to a deep spirituality. MK credits the International Association of Near-Death Studies members with providing her the tools to find an acceptance and integration of her distressing NDE, allowing the joy of her life's purpose to emerge. Kathy continues to share her comforting message of God's mercy and unconditional love via podcast, radio programs, and speaking engagements. There was one other thing, let's see. Okay, so I do want to talk about something else, even though this isn't part of her bio. This was one of the things, and then I want to go through the defining moments. Here comes Miss Deborah. But the word she used, because we talked about this earlier, was useful. That was the word, Kathy. I love that. But we'll wait for Miss Deborah to come, and she's here connecting to audio. But welcome, Kathy.
Well, thank you.
So
glad to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you here. And is there anything, I know you probably don't have a fishy joke. Maybe you do. I don't.
A fishy joke. Oh my, you caught me off guard on that one.
Well, maybe that's the joke. We caught you.
Caught me off. Yeah, okay, I got it.
Oh my goodness.
It works.
Yeah, it does. It totally works. Usually we tell a little fish joke, but as a one-person show, I'm simplifying. I was told today simplify, and I'm like, I don't do that well, but I am right now. So
it's working.
Hi, Deborah. We can't hear you, Deborah.
She in the car?
I can't hear you guys. Are you talking?
Yeah, we're talking. Yes.
Shoot. Okay. Hold on. Sorry, I just came out from the fields.
Fields.
So good to meet you. Nice to see you.
You too.
So Kathy, why don't you, while she's trying to work on the audio piece of her being here, would you tell us some more about your NDE, or start where you want to start? I would just love to hear your story, or however you want to tell it.
Well, again, at my age, there's lots to tell, but I'll slide into the NDE. I had a very, very good friend. We were engaged for 7 years. He helped me raise my teenagers and helped send them to college, and we were best of friends. And he got transferred to the East Coast, and we were living on the West Coast. I had my own business, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't just pick up and leave my world and go sit in Chicago in an apartment. So anyway, he went. It wasn't a messy breakup. We're getting there. He went, I stayed. Anyway, about a year or two later, he called me up. We had stayed in touch and seen each other a couple of times, and said that he found out he had leukemia. He was only 53 years old and in good shape. And I thought, oh my goodness. And he said, well, I need 2 caregivers. I've got one, but they won't let me into the research hospital in Seattle without 2 caregivers because it's going to be it's going to be messy and hard and difficult. So they can't have just one, because if that person conks out, then you're out of the program. So I said, sure. And I went up to Seattle and I found us a place to stay, and it was near the hospital, and we dug in. So it was supposed to be 2 or 3 months, and it turned into about 8.5. And by that time, the other caregiver had broken her foot, so I was taking care of her too. And, you know, we were up we never slept. It was total stress. He'd be great, and then he'd be slipping, and then they'd try this, and then that wouldn't work. And then he died, and I just could not wrap my mind around it. I really couldn't. And so I had been seeing another gentleman that I had met in the meantime. And so the 4 of us were kind of hanging out. And anyway, I got very sick. I caught a flu that was going around, very akin to COVID. And I got very ill very fast. And then it went into pneumonia. And I almost didn't make it to the hospital. I had gone, my friend had taken me to one of those dock in the boxes. And by the time I got out of the car, I blacked out, and they couldn't find a pulse. So they took me by ambulance to the hospital. And then they threw me into ICU and said, you know, ARDS this was 23 years ago, and they didn't know how to treat it. It's like COVID. You don't know how to treat it. And generally, they told us that it was just, you either make it or you don't. And we just try and keep you alive long enough to where your body says, oh, all right, we'll make it. So they came in and told me and my family, we got to put her out. We're going to be doing some pretty awful things. We don't want her to be conscious, and this way we can really take more control of her medications and stuff. So I said, wow, you know, what? And then the guy said, now don't worry about it. The doctor said, don't worry about it. We're going to give you something called white amnesia. You will remember nothing that goes on the whole time you're out. It'll just be a blank to you. You'll wake up and you won't remember anything, because we're going to be doing some kind of, he didn't say this, but the inference was some horrendous things too. And the first was, of course, to give me a trach and stick the tube in, the ventilator and all of that stuff. Thankfully, they waited till I was out. So that's kind of how I got there.
Well, and then was it during the white coma? Did you call it a white coma or a white?
Well, no, it was a coma. I just had a particular kind of anesthetic.
Oh, I see. Was it during that you had your NDE?
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people think that you have to flatline to have an NDE, but near death means near death. And in a coma, generally, I don't know, something about your spirit gets a little loosey-goosey, and it just kind of wanders off. And that's what mine did. And all I know is I was just all of a sudden conscious. And I was in a very completely dark place. There was no sound. There was no reference of whether I was standing or sitting or whatever. It was just, I thought somebody played a joke on me and put me in a closet. You know, I had nothing to tie it to. So I just kind of hung out thinking, well, something's hopefully going to happen here. And eventually there was kind of the light, reddish glow started to happen. And I thought, well, maybe the sun's coming up, you know, good, this is good. But as it became clearer, all I could see was like this swirling fog, and it was still a reddish glow. And I thought, oh, this is strange, you know? And then it started to get uncomfortably warm. And then I was smelling something really bad. And then I started hearing shrieks, just blood-curdling shrieks, and then moaning sounds. Oh, this cannot be good. And so all of a sudden, with no warning, out from this fog came this horrible, mean voice that says, do you know where you are? And my mind was racing, and I'm thinking, I hope I'm wrong. And I just whispered, hell? And then this horrible laugh that comes from a Bela Lugosi movie, and boy, freaked. And I just turned and ran into the darkness. And that's when the whole thing started.
Wow. So if you ran, could you actually get away? Was it, you know, I don't mean to compare it to this, but you know, in those nightmares, those very primal, especially when you're younger nightmares, where you're running from something, but it feels like it's right on your heels, but
Yeah.
somehow you get away, even though you don't feel you do. Was it like that, or was it far more real and worse?
No, people ask about dreams. I mean, I have really lucid dreams, and I'll wake up and think, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get rid of that dream for, and then, 2 hours later, I can't even remember what it was. The thing about an NDE is it happens in your soul. It does not happen in your brain. So there's no place for it to go. You keep it. And what I found out just recently is, I've been told by some of the other podcasters when they've had people with distressing NDEs, that there seems to be a pattern in that I saw chapters or scene changes. It was like being in a movie set, and you're in a Western town, and then they roll everything away, and all of a sudden you're in outer space. It was that kind of thing, but it happened instantaneously. And it usually happened when I was in conflict with one of the beings there. And so as the light came up on my first adventure, I found myself in what appeared to be New York City after a huge bomb or an attack or something. It was buildings and concrete and blown out windows and fires and people screaming, and just a boom, to open your eyes and be in that situation is really upsetting. So I tried to hide. I tucked in between some concrete, and I just thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then I'm a survivor. I was a Girl Scout, all of those things. And I thought, well, I better find a safe place, find some food, and check out what's going on. So I did see what I thought was a person, quite a ways away, kind of hunkered down like I was. And I thought, well, I don't know if that's a perpetrator. I don't know if that's a looter, but I just know it looks like a human, and I need some company. I need some help. So I just shouted out, took a chance, and said, hey, I'm over here. Could we get together? Maybe, we could find some food and all that. And he kind of stopped me. It was a man's voice, and it was very forlorn. And it just said, we are all alone here. I thought, here? What's here? I had no idea. I never knew I was dead. A lot of people will say that because your spirit is you, your personality and who you are. So it's like when you're driving your car, when you get out of your car, it's still you. Well, if you get out of your body, it's still you, and you don't really realize it. So I just thought, well, and then weird stuff started happening. Like this big shadow came by, and it had skittery sounds like a big mechanical beast of some sort. And then I thought, aliens, that's what's happened. It's aliens. So, you don't know, you just wake up in this place. And so I tried to get away. I fell, and I woke up, and I was somewhere else. And Laura, this kept playing over and over. It was different each time. And it got to a place where there was a demon, and there was no other word for it. I mean, if you saw it, you'd say, oh my God, that's a demon. And we had this little chit chat, and he asked me if I wanted to get out of there. And I said, well, yes, I do. And he says, well, if you just finish this one little task for me, I'll see that you get out. And I thought, fishy, something is fishy.
Speaking of fishy.
Podcast, this is, I don't know if I'm buying this, but there was nobody else. So I thought I better take a chance. I said, okay, what's the job? And boom, the lights went up. And as far as I could see was this huge field of blackberry vines. Big ones that curl on top of each other. They're 1.5 inches thick with all the stickers on them and stuff. And I looked at him, and he said, all you got to do is just cut them all down, and then I'll let you get out. And I thought, cut them all down. Again, in life, whenever I moved to a new house, it seemed like there were blackberry bushes around. I know how hard they are to get rid of. So I just said, fine. And he handed me these little kindergarten scissors, you know, and I mean, you need clippers to get through those darn vines. And then he chuckled. Sense of humor. That was the only sense of humor I think I ever saw down there. And so I thought, well, you SOB, I'm going to show you. I'm going to cut these damn vines down. So I got down and I start gnawing on them, and I finally got one cut. And I went to put it behind me, and when I turned back around, it grew back. And I looked up at this guy, and he just thought that was so funny. And I thought, I'm just not going to let this beat me. And so I kneeled back down, and boom, I'm in another spot. So this went on and on and on. Anybody that wants to read all the gory details is welcome to do so in my book. That is not that's not my predominant. There's like 12 chapters out of 100 about the health thing. It's because it's mostly about my life and how this impacted me and how it changed my life and what it gave me purpose, you know, when I got back. But it took decades for me to figure things out. So when I did get back, miraculously, I was not happy because after the last pitch in hell, I had been thrust into heaven. There's no other word for it. I mean, it's just light and joy and bliss and things, words that human minds cannot come up with. It's just fantastic, awesome. It was wonderful. And there's my friend who had just died the month before. And instead of looking like he was dying of leukemia, which is a terrible way to go, he looked great. He looked better than I'd seen him. I'd known him for years, and he looked like he was 35 years old, and he was wearing a sweater I gave him, and he was laughing. And I thought, oh my gosh, he doesn't know he's dead. I don't want to be the one to tell him, bust his bubble, you know. And he heard me in my head, and he just really started laughing then. And I thought, well, wait a minute, you know, maybe he is dead, and that means I'm dead, and that means I'm in heaven, and doesn't get any better with your best friend. So I thought, why are we standing here? You know, I had caught out of the corner of my eye this great big table with a big huge book open about halfway, and I thought, wait a minute, he was showing me something in that book. What was it? Oh well, I said, come on, let's go see angels and flowers and stars. Let's go do some fun stuff. And he came a little closer and he says, now, Mary Kay, you've got too much left to do. Oh, they were giving me the bum's rush. And I said, no, absolutely not. No, I just stomped my foot. That's how I thought I still had my body, because I crossed my arms and I stamped my foot. And he just laughed. And I was no longer there. And I had a little time out, I think, coming back, because I was very angry, going through a nice little stream and met a couple of little ladies that gave me a message to give to somebody. And then I woke up, another bright light, and now I'm in the ICU. My family's going, yip, yip, hooray, she's back. And I have no idea what's going on. None. I can't move. I can't talk. That was hellish in itself, believe me. So that was my welcome back to earth, Kathy.
I've heard that so often, that people don't want to come back. Although I've also heard that some people are given a choice and they do choose to come back. Some people do choose to come back.
Usually ladies who just had a baby. That's all. Yeah, or they have 2 little kids and they just can't do it. Other than that, I haven't heard of anybody that did.
I have.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't know if we've interviewed them, or I don't know how many NDE people we've interviewed. Maybe, I did not know. We interviewed Lynn Kitai. She is a big name in the Phoenix Light. She's the one that did a lot of the filming, but she was a medical doctor in Phoenix and didn't want to hurt her reputation. So she got the film out there through other people. But what I didn't know about her until we interviewed her is that she had an NDE as a child. And then she's had a lot of paranormal. Trish doesn't like the term paranormal, supernatural, what, you know, things that are beyond what we can see here on Earth. She's had a lot of synchronistic supernatural experiences, and she feels that UFO either, she's actually doing a test on that. Because we went to the Phoenix Lights 25th anniversary in Phoenix this year, and they're doing a study on people who experienced the Phoenix Lights and people who didn't. So I'd be a person who didn't. And they feel that that also turns on some supernatural understandings, which then, I don't know, Deborah, I don't know if you can talk, if you're in a good place to talk. Do you have any questions? This is fascinating.
Oh, yeah, it's fascinating. It's so nice to meet you.
Me too.
I'm usually in a more stable place, but I'm here and I'm really excited. That experience is like everyone's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
I've had nightmares that, but that is the the vivid memory, the smells, all that stuff, just so interesting. So the question I had is, when you came back, where were you? What was your first memory? Who was there? How was it? Like, what happened when you came back?
Yeah, I was in the hospital in the ICU, and
Sorry, keep going. Forgot about that
keeps
earlier.
going out. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll
it's
have
okay.
it.
We're on Facebook Live, so I can strip it from
Okay.
there, but I thought I might as well have a backup just in case.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, I was in the hospital, and my daughter came up next to me and said, Mom, you've been so sick. You've been really sick. We didn't think you were going to make it. And now you're back, and everything's going to be fine. And I thought, well, I can't move. I can't talk. And I have, the smell of hell in my lungs still. And I'm thinking, everything's going to be fine. Just doesn't ring a bell for me. But thank God I couldn't talk. It took about a week before they put this little device on my neck, so I sounded like a robot, but at least I could communicate. The doctors tested me out, and I could blink and move one finger. That was it. I weighed 86 pounds. I had no muscle mass, no muscle memory. And they said, I heard one of the doctors when he was leaving my room tell a nurse, or tell my mom rather, that we don't know how brain damaged she is after all of this. And she may drive a car, but she'll never work. She's going to need to live with somebody. Well, I'm 53 years old, I'm 52. And that was depressing, absolutely depressing. So they finally, after 3 weeks, I was able to get out. I was in ICU for a total of a month. And then I went to, through some machinations, to get myself into a facility that would give me some physical rehab, which I was there a full month. And I had to go from 0 to 60 to get out. And I had to get up to 100 pounds. And that was difficult because my stomach just shrank to nothing. And it was hell, an extension of hell. I had things kept going wrong. One of my lungs collapsed again just when I was supposed to be getting out in a couple of days. So they had to they stuck a needle in me and then put a hose, and then we're trying to drain the lungs. So it was a mess. I never thought I was going to get out of there. And then when I did, my parents lived in California and I was here in Washington. And so the nice gentleman I had been dating for a few months says, well, let's get married, and I said, you'd marry me? I mean, I'm a bit of a liability right now. He said, no, you'll come back. I know you'll come back. So I went to, we got an apartment. He found a house for us, and an apartment house. And we got married about 10 months later.
Do you have a sense, Kathy? Well, I have a sense why people don't like to hear this, because it sounds scary, right? Like, it is scary. But do you have a sense of why this happened to you? I know we choose what happens to us. You probably feel, well, I shouldn't put words in your mouth, but maybe that, if people think, because I heard you say earlier, maybe even before we started, gosh, Kathy, if it happened to you, I'm definitely going to hell. So do you have a sense as to why it happened to you, or why you chose for it to happen to you?
Like I said, that took 2 decades to figure out. Once I got to IANDS, which was about 10 years later, because no one would talk to me about this. Nobody. My shrink just put, she said, I'm sorry, I've got to put PTSD on your file. I don't know how to help you. I know this, between your illness and your experience, she says, you're a mess. Thank you. I needed that.
Hashtag labels gone wrong.
Right. Thanks a lot. That cost me how much? So yeah, I labored along there, and then synchronicities, like you say, are real things. Those are the things I think we planned, our little signposts, the people to show up at the right times in our lives with the message. And we had talked earlier about the voice, those times where you hear things, that you better pay attention to. And let me warn you, when you come back from the other side, the voice is not a whisper. It's loud and it'll argue with you. I mean, it's really, people think you're a schizophrenic because you're talking to yourself. I'm not going to that meeting. Get your car keys. I'm not going to drive to Seattle. The traffic's terrible. You'll be there in an hour. If you're going to be late, step on the gas. I finally got up to one of those meetings, and I felt just, on one hand, I was shocked that there was like 50 or 60 people there for their monthly meetings. And I thought, what? How come I don't know about all this stuff? So I picked up a lot of information. I listened to somebody tell a story. It was all sweetness and light and all fluffiness and all that stuff. And I thought, I don't belong here. They got to have another group, because this is just not my thing. And so I didn't go back until the voice drugged me up to another one and said that I had to meet somebody. You got to go, you're going to meet somebody. I fought it. I got up there early, and Eben Alexander was going to be the speaker. Never heard of him in my life. I thought, who's this clown? So anyway, I got up there. Now they're in a big room, and there's like 100 and something chairs. And I thought, well, I'm going to make it difficult for this prediction of finding this special person to come into my life. I'm going to sit on the edge of the aisle. I had 10 chairs down this way. I had 10 chairs in front of me and back of me. Nobody's sitting in them. So I sat there, again, being a brat. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see this woman coming down, and she goes past my right row by about 3 chairs. And then she stops, and she kind of cocks her head like she hears something, right? So she backs up, walks all the way down all those chairs, and sat right next to me. And I thought, this is too freaking weird. And I thought, I'm not going to even talk to her. I'm just going to sit here. And she's waving at people she knows and all that stuff. So all of a sudden she turns to me and she says, are you new here? And I said, yes. And she said, you don't know anybody? And I said, no. I said, and I'm supposed to meet somebody special here today, or I wouldn't have come. She says, oh, I know. And I says, huh? She says, yeah, I got past the row and I heard the voice say, go sit next to that lady. She's really nice. And I thought, wow. Maybe there's something to this, She became a really good friend, and she's the one that kind of talked me into giving my story, because I didn't want to tell it. And then I talked her into giving her story because she didn't want to give it, And so, yeah, we became really good friends. She helped edit my book, a little parts of it. And, if I had, come on, that's too much of a coincidence, So yeah, that's what kind of got me there. And then I got harangued by the rest of the crowd when they heard that I had a distressing NDE. Oh, that'd be really great. All we ever hear is all this fun stuff. Oh, come on, you got to tell it. It's like, wait a minute, I'm not an entertainer. This is personal, and it hurts, and it's ugly. And yeah, when can you speak? So I got up there, one of the meetings, and I was just a wreck. And I had a box of Kleenex in my lap because I always get dramatic. And all these people are just staring at me, and I hate public speaking. I'm a good storyteller, but that's on paper. So I started it. I started in, and I cut, and boy, the room started quieting down. And I went through every detail. We were there a long time. And at the very end, just when I was about to get out, and I did, the room erupted with applause. I mean, they were with me the whole way. They were, thank God that we all got out at the same time. It was a sensation, you know. Oh, we can get out. Oh my gosh, I'm afraid we were stuck there. So I was an instant success. And then things started happening, you know, just things started happening to where I got involved with more of the IANDS stuff and went to a conference 2 years ago, and there was a medium there who was starting her own publishing company, and she had a sign on her little card table that said, "Do you need to write a book?" And the first time I saw it, I put my hand up and I walked past because I thought, I keep hearing the voice telling me, "You've got to write the book, you've got to write the book." And I didn't want to write the book. That's hard. So anyway, 3 days of conference. On the way out, I was always ducking her when I went past her. She's loading up her stuff to go put in her car. And she came and she stood right in front of me. She says, "You need to write a book." And I just looked at her like, huh? She says, "They say you need to write a book." And I didn't know a medium from a hole in the ground then. I didn't understand what she meant about they. And so anyway, she got me going and she cracked a whip, and it took quite a while. And she tricked me a couple of times into making it longer than I thought it was going to be in the first place, and got it published. And that was 2 years ago. God bless her. Yeah.
You've done such a great job of
People go
promoting
to
it
get your
because-
book.
Yeah,
Kathy.
go ahead, Deborah.
What?
Oh, Deborah, we can't hear you. I'm sorry. The connection's just not good enough.
Can you hear me?
Now?
Yeah, now I can. I think she said, "Where can we get
I
your
was
book?"
just asking her, where can you get your book? And if do you
Yeah.
have any other like websites or anything?
Oh yeah, I've got a website, and it's the name of the book, www.MISFIT.com. And that's a good place if you want it autographed, you can get it done there. Otherwise, you can just go to Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere that sells books. Yeah. It's available.
That's
And it's
great,
gonna be
Kathy.
a
Kathy,
Kindle.
what also with the expat from heaven, so now that we've talked about the negative experience you have, I like your perspective on I'm going to read now, again getting back to the bio, because I had asked you for 3 to 5 defining moments, and I love this. This was under what you called unusual, right? Because we ask you different questions just to get you to think. Somehow we're just not organized. We really mean to be organized. This is a project of our heart. One day we hope to maybe monetize or not. Certainly, hopefully legitimizing that we really are all spiritual beings and all connected. And I want to get back to that health thing where you're alone here in a minute. But I also want to say this, because this really was very touching to me. When you wrote something unusual about yourself, you said, "God told me," oh, it's giving me chills. "The formula for living a good life is to be loving, kind, merciful, forgiving, encouraging, grateful, non-judgmental, and useful." I'm like, wow, that's all the things. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
So if
that's
you
my
could
mantra.
give us a description too of what your philosophy is. That it sounded like you said, we chose this life, we put the synchronicities in. What does that look like to you?
It makes sense to me now, again, being around all those wonderful IANDS people and listening to their stories. It all started clicking because I was a cradle Catholic, and I was taught, there was heaven, purgatory, and hell, and nobody went straight to heaven. You always had to go to purgatory. And I bought that hook, line, and sinker. I'll give you another codfish thing. And so I think I expected to go to hell or purgatory when I died, and I wasn't disappointed. So I think it was a manifestation on my part. And my mission is to tell people, skip the trip. God is all loving, all forgiving. There is no judgment when you die. It doesn't matter if you are a pygmy in Africa or if you're, whoever you are, everybody gets in. We are all here because we start off in heaven as souls, and we choose to come down to Earth or other planets or other universes and learn things. And this is all just like a play. We wrote the lines, we chose them. I'm told by the people who stayed longer than I did, because I was kicked out way too soon. I think they knew I was going to be trouble, but I that this life is something I chose, and I chose all the people that came with me, and I think that I believe in reincarnation, and that we go back. Supposedly, I didn't hear that, I didn't see it, but they tell me you get your life review, and it's not a judgment. You just get to see every instant of your life and how you did. And then they flip it around and they let you experience how it was to interact with you. So if you caused some pain to someone, you will feel their pain. If you feel their joy, you'll feel their joy. So when people ask me about Hitler and people who do nasty things, well, they get the opportunity to see how that felt, to act in that way as a human. So it has nothing to do with God and judgment. So yes, we all go back home when we're finished. And I think I got off track there a little bit. If you want to
That's
throw me
okay.
back on the right one.
It's all fascinating. You know, this is, I don't know if you probably haven't followed us enough and gone deep, but I studied NDEs for a while. I think it was 2019. So we can go back to, as I said, I've become something of natural disaster girl, because my house, the same house that I've lived in most of my life, has flooded twice. The second time I took action, and it just burned down in May. And so that was I know. Me too. That's exactly what I was like. Wait, we're flood people. We're not fire people. Right?
You're not supposed to be in that house. That's why.
100%. This time, so that voice you talk about is getting louder. I was, I know they call it clairaudient. I was not always clairaudient. I'm not clairvoyant. I'm claircognizant. I know things. I just know things. I know them. But now I'm asking for that voice. And the voice says things that to you, and it's like, no, I don't want to do that. Do I really have to? Trish talks about this all the time. Do I really have to do that? I don't want to do that, or I'm tired, or I have, but the voice, it's like,
it won't
it's so
give up.
loud.
Yeah.
So right after the fire, I heard a couple days later, let go or be dragged. I'm like, I hear you. I hear you this time. And this week I'm on vacation at the beach, and I had an injury, which I'm pretty sure is coming from my hamstring, because I also have a sort of a physiological background. And but I heard, I'm like, well, what's the lesson in this? And it's like, slow down. So I've been hearing slow down, let go, be dragged. I've been hearing surrender, lots of words that I don't know how to do, but these situations are forcing me into it. And as soon as I started to notice other things that were keeping me sped up or doing, the pain got better in my foot. So it's not always metaphysical. Sometimes it's something physical, but I do find it kind of interesting that it's completely let go now that I've really been diving deep into this slow down mode.
Listening. Yeah. Well, good for you. I mean, we're just little human beings, and we're in this soul, and we're not as powerful, but we still got our free will. And
I
that's the thing.
I don't know if you guys can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, and it's a miracle because you're on mute. So I don't even know how we are. It's so funny. They're both, I don't know what.
I don't know the name of it. I don't know the name of it, but I'm clear feeling. Like I feel everything. And there's a name for it because somebody told me. Like
sentient? Sentient?
I think that's it.
Yes. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
So I just think it's interesting. And it's good that Laura can know things, because sometimes I call her and I need her to tell me something.
Yeah, we share our gifts.
Yeah, we share our gifts. And
yeah, and you're like soulmates. So you're two of the soulmates that you said, okay, we're going to meet on Earth and we're going to be friends, because I can't get through this without your help. And
you mean I brought her onto my life? Oh.
Seemed like a good idea at the time, huh?
It's funny how the Earth changes things.
It's a good idea.
Kathy, were there any special?
Still a very good idea. Yeah.
Special, aw, thanks, Deborah. Any special gifts you came back with that you didn't have before?
One of the things that happened that I didn't want to happen was sensitivity to electricity. So I'm laughing at all the stuff that's happening here, because a lot of times when I'm on podcasts, they're going, I don't know, we've never had problems with this computer before. And they're switching cameras, they're doing all kinds of lights are flickering. It's like, whatever. That happens. I would come up to a stoplight when I was driving at night, and the overhead light would go out every single time. And people didn't believe me. I said, get in the car, and we'd drive around, we'd stop, and the thing would go out. So that's very common at the conferences. Nothing works. The microphones, phones go out, and the heat turns off, and it's just really funny. Too much energy.
That's really interesting, Kathy, because that happens to me. I used to go into stores. Remember when you had the old malls, and each shop had a radio station playing overhead, and I'd go in and be like, and people would be like, what's going on with our radio? And then I found out, I watched some documentary where those people, there are some people that are really bad, like they burn out toasters, they burn out watches, things like that. They're called sliders. And I'm like, okay, but maybe I've had some kind of experience that I don't remember. I don't know, but I've always had this where I go by and lights go off, always.
Yeah, that happens. And again, with knowing when people are telling me something, how are you? I say, and they say, oh, I'm fine. And I think, no, there's something wrong with your mom, and you're not telling me. And I'll say, are you sure? And they'll say, well, I'm having problems with my mother. So yeah, there's a sensitivity, I think, that comes along with that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And the good news that you just feel better about life. Knowing that I've planned it all, and I've got, sometimes I think, what were you thinking? But the lesson always comes, and that's cool. And I was told that I had too much left to do, and there was absolutely no way for me to do anything. So that's that trust thing I had to, and so when I finally got my book done, and I thought, okay, I've written the book, but now how do I get my message out? I mean, I've still got too much left to do. It's 20 freaking years. When do I get to retire? And that's when Christy Salisbury, sent me an email. I do a podcast, and I thought, what the hell is a podcast? That I've got NDEers on it. I want you on the show. And I thought, okay. And so, like I said to you earlier, this is my 72nd podcast, in 2 years that just popped up. So you get help to get, or I planned it actually before I came down. It'll all work out. If you're on the right track, no matter how rocky it gets, you'll find a way, if that's what you're saying.
So Kathy, the 72nd podcast, 7 is my number and 2 is Laura's number. Just FYI.
Oh, I love that
Trisha's
kind of stuff. Yeah.
3. Yeah.
Mine are 6 and 4. Yeah.
Was there anything
Okay.
that said to you, like, did any voice come to you like, oh, I must be with those ladies? Little vanity here.
I can tell, I peek into a podcast first. And I think the funniest part is if I go, I don't know about that one. And they turn out to be the most fun. If I figure somebody asks me, I'm supposed to go. I will warn somebody, if I don't think I'm going to be a fit for their show, if I think their audience is going to come down there with, pitchforks and torches, I'll say, look, this is going to upset people. Oh, and if they say, oh, I don't care, then we do it. If they go, oh, okay, thanks for the heads up, I give them the choice, but I'll go where I'm sent.
Yeah,
I think that's beautiful.
Not on this podcast for sure. And I apologize for all the technical difficulties, and we're trying to find Wi-Fi in Northern Michigan in the middle of whatever. And I'm at a painting art contest for 3 days, and we're just trying to find Wi-Fi. Thank you. We're trying to find Wi-Fi, but thank you. I'm enjoying it. But I also wanted to. We are studying The Artist's Way right now. I don't know if you are familiar with that book by Julia Cameron. but a lot of the Artist's Way talks about, you know, of course, getting out of your limiting beliefs, also talking about synchronicities, a lot about synchronicities in there. And part of her is to write every day, 3 pages every day, to get your thoughts on, just a stream of consciousness. So I'm just wondering, when you wrote your book, did that, you know, change your perception or your experience in any way? Did it give closure? Did it give you more open? What did your book do to your?
Well, when I got back originally, I thought if I could just write the hell experience out, you know, and put it in a drawer, it would go away. And I did that for years. It didn't go away. So when I went to write the book, I already had written out that story so many times and tweaked it that was almost done, you know, ready. So I told the publisher, you know, that's all I need. She says, no, you need X amount of words. You've got a long way to go. So she had me go back. Well, tell us how you got to be you. So I went back to my grandparents, and I found all these traits that some of them were in me and some in my family. I thought, well, now that's interesting. And so it gave me something to think about. And then I thought, okay, and then how have I changed since that happened to me? And how has my family changed? So, you know, we're not in this little, you know, in a little bowl somewhere. Everything we do ripple effects out to everybody else. So, and then being with the IANDS people, they helped me clarify what had happened to other people, and was that something that maybe I resonated with. They never tell you, you know, this is what happened. You have to figure it out for yourself. For me, I feel now, after finding Nancy Evans Bush, she was written 3 books, and she was a very intelligent lady, and she had kind of a distressing one, but she said that she equates it to kind of like Joseph Campbell and the hero thing, that, or back in the ancient days, the hero would go down into the depths of hell and bring back the princess, or bring back the golden truth, or whatever, and share it with the rest of the tribe or the clan or civilization. And I see that the distressing NDEers are the brave souls, is what she said. And I clung to that. I thought, I felt of myself as a damned soul for such a long time. I'll take brave any day you want to give it out. So I've got that on my chest now. And so, yeah, I chose it. I went down there, and I lived a life that was so entangled with religion that is so constrictive and full of man-made rules and mistruths and misunderstandings. And I needed to break out, and I'm willing to take that and share that. You know, God loves you, period. The only thing in the Bible that I cling to is the prodigal son, that one, and the Sermon on the Mount. Those sound like God to me. And that's what I'm living, and that's what I get a little emotional about this. This is what I'm trying to share with people, is that you don't need to go to hell, and anybody that tells you you do is wrong.
Amen. I do want to tell you a little synchronicity. So Deborah was talking about this book. It's by it's The Artist's Way. It's backwards, by Julia Cameron. She apparently, I didn't know this, either once upon a time or still is married to James Cameron of Titanic.
The otter.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know that, but I found that out a couple weeks ago. And it's about writing, integrating things, purging things. But then you talked about your book, and you talked about The Hero's Way. So that's the synchronicity. I mean, I'm getting shivers. I was in San Diego with Deborah right before my house burned down. And I found it's not tarot, it's an oracle card. And it was the most beautiful oracle card I've ever seen. It was called A Hero's Way. And what I'm getting ready to do is help people tell and retell and shift their stories of victimhood, audition them, and then move into the future. But these oracle, I'm like, oh, well, that's kind of similar. And they were Joseph Campbell's. They're based on Joseph Campbell, who I'd never heard of. Then all this hero stuff starts coming up, and writing your own story. So I love that, and there's also a PBS special from the 80s or 90s or something about it, that helped shift your perspective to make you from damned into, I'm the hero here. I'm willing to go put myself in hell to come back and teach. And then, so that then brings me to the whole connection. So when I was really studying NDEs, I had seen a very small clip that Raymond Moody did, and someone interviewed him and said, what do you feel everybody comes back with from, he wasn't talking about negative. He was talking about not distressing, but pleasant ones, the fun ones that you talk about.
Yeah.
And it's that we are here to experience unconditional love. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to go find out what that is. And it sounds to me a little bit like it's connected versus everybody here is alone. So can you kind of go into that a little bit, Kathy? Do you have any insights?
Of that particular scene?
Yeah, well,
maybe
what unconditional love means to you, or if that's what you came back with, or connectivity versus lonely, or anything.
Yeah,
on
I
that?
guess knowing that when I was in first grade and took my first catechism lesson, we had to learn like 3 things. And it's, who is God? God is love. Where is God? God is everywhere. Why are you here? I'm here to know, love, and serve God and be with him in the next. 6 years old, 7 years old. That's what's important and that unconditional love is not only is God's not even our father. We are part of God. We are love. And I hesitate to use this metaphor, but I don't know if we're in heaven and we all have a communal mind. There's schools, there's everything you could imagine, and it's loving and warm. And I don't know, being a Gemini, if I said, I'm kind of bored, maybe I want to go, this is all too predictable. I want to go down to earth, and like get my own thoughts and get my own house and get my own dog and just see how that is. And I want to see what it is to be empathetic or jealous or any of those things. And they said, yeah, get in line over here as the people going to earth. And also somebody came back one time and said, I don't know if it's a badge or what that you wear up there once you you get back, and they say, oh, wow, you went to earth? Man, that's a tough gig. How was it? That's really the hardest place to go. I wouldn't have the guts to go down to earth. Made me. So I think we should really feel proud of ourselves that we came from love and perfection and came down here and took a chance to learn something and to help one another and to be of use. And I like to look at life like that. And I look at other people like that. And especially people that are challenging me. I think, okay, we chose to have this confrontation. And we said we were going to learn what? Come on. What were we going to learn out of it? It's not quite making a game of life, but it's taking it a lot less seriously. And there's a purpose, and it's all going to be good. We can't screw it up.
I love that. I think that's a really good lesson for anybody. It's a good lesson for me, taking back something that you've experienced and then incorporating it into our own lives and making our own lives and therefore rippling out better is one of the reasons we do this whole CodPast, is to let people know there's hope. Maybe they have faith, but they need a little hope or synchronicity. I love it. Deborah, anything you've got? I can hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I was just saying what she was saying is that's what we're all about. We're all about being light and love, because you can argue, you can get triggered, you can waste a lot of time in this life not coming from love, coming from fear. So what we were talking about this day, my friend and I were doing this thing, is that when we have that fear, we have tools in order to say, no, that's going to be my journey today. I'm not going down that road with this person. I'm just going to know that somebody said in our last podcast that you're either love or you're in need of love. So even the really irritating people are, Julie Cameron calls them the crazy. Even those people are in love. And so just what you just said about that. That's exactly how we think. I appreciate you being here, and I'm so glad I met you because I was meant to meet you. I know that for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah. We all planned this. We did.
Yeah.
I know we've only got 5 more minutes, and usually I ask a big question, but I'm a little curious, and maybe I'll pepper it for what's coming up on Clubhouse in about 5 minutes, because I'd really like, another thing I'm exploring is how Jesus fits into all of God and, or the major world religions. I'm kind of curious about that. I don't know how it all fits. I don't know if we were all separated here so that we could all find our way back together or something. So I guess I'll pepper the Clubhouse with that question and you can answer it there. But I guess as we wrap up, I would say, what would be the one big lesson you take away from everything that you think might make, one or two, that would make people's lives better if they knew it?
I guess it's that sentence you read at the beginning, because when I asked God, I said, I know I'm going to go back to heaven, but I don't want any more thou shalt nots in my life. What can I do positively? And over a couple of months, it came, just be loving and kind, merciful, forgiving, encouraging, grateful, non-judgmental, and useful. Just, that's all you got to do.
Goosebumps. I have goosebumps when you said that. That resonates with my clear feeling. What would you say it is called?
Clairsentient? Is that what it is?
Oh, sentient, I think. Sentient,
so.
that means feeling.
Sentient. Okay.
I think so.
And also,
it just gave me the goosebumps.
it's beautiful, Kathy. It's really beautiful. It's why we're here. It's sometimes even just hearing something as simple as we're here for unconditional love, we complicate that because there's always conditions on it. We don't mean it to be. I wish I were so unconditionally loving, but I don't even unconditionally love myself. It's a process, right? And so,
well, yeah, only God has got an unconditional love. We're in a human body, so we've got some restrictions, and that makes it a challenge.
I bet it starts from the moment you take your first breath. You're like, oh my God, breathing is hard here. What was I thinking?
That
right?
hurts.
Like the gravity of the situation.
I can't talk. And who is that woman that's holding me? Her face is too close. Ah!
But, and that's where also, Kathy, you were saying, we need to applaud ourselves for taking this mission and just moving on, moving through.
Yeah, we're brave souls, man, to be here. Ask anybody up there.
Amen. All right, so I think I'm going to wrap this up. So Kathy, I sent you a link on your text on Clubhouse, so I'll go open the room. So did you get it?
Let's see. I have to look on my email. Will it be?
No, it was text. It was text.
Text?
And I can send it again. It should be the room, but I haven't opened the room. So even if you click on it,
I found it. So I just hit the little link and I'll be there. Do I have to wait?
Yeah, but if you wait just a minute, if you go out there and it's not open, it's because I haven't opened it. But Kathy, I want to thank you for coming on board, for reaching out to me several times. I apologize for my lack of reaching back in a timely manner. It's not a reflection on you or what I think. It's more a reflection on I can't get more done than I do.
It worked out.
And
Kathy,
Clubhouse is only on the phone. It's not on Zoom or anything. It's just on the phone.
I've got my phone.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us. Everybody
bit.
go look for Kathy's book, Misfit in Hell and Heaven Expat. The Heaven Expat. What are the Misfit in Hell?
I became from a misfit in hell. I became a heaven expat. So it's two heaven expat.
Two heaven expat. All right. Thanks so much, Kathy, and we'll see everybody on Clubhouse. Bye.
Okay, bye.
I may have to also shut this off. Let's see if I can.